All right, back to it now here on the Steve Gruber Show. I'm glad you're here. So much to discuss with the convictions, 34 felonies, manufactured felonies against Donald Trump, and that's what we've been talking about here. Look, when Donald Trump gets back in the White House, he needs to rise above this. He needs to unite this country. Democrats like Joe Biden out there, the White House issuing a statement, nobody is above the law, doing a victory lap, spiking the football. Good luck with that. Because I warn people, be careful what you wish for, Democrats. There will be a boomerang effect. You know, Donald Trump's fundraising websites crashed yesterday after the verdict a couple of times because so many people were giving money. Keep that in mind. Joining me now, Todd Bensman, a senior national security fellow for the Center for Immigration Studies, the author of Overrun, How Joe Biden Unleashed the Greatest Border Crisis in U.S. History. Todd, good to have you on the program.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So, you know, real quickly, one of the prices we're paying for Joe Biden is this wide open, unsecured national border with Mexico. I'm just curious what your gut reaction is to this trial, if you will, in Manhattan. I think it's a complete travesty, a sham, actually, used to defeat Donald Trump because they can't beat him at the ballot box, and they know it. They can't have their border being wide open if Donald Trump ends up back in the White House. It'll actually be secured because things will change. What do you take from what happened yesterday?
Well, I kind of go back. I mean, you know, that's not really my expertise area, but I do have to go back to the campaigns that were put on by the district attorneys that brought these cases, the local district attorneys who campaigned, I'm going to get Trump. I'll find something, you elect me and I'll find something to get Trump on. And that's just highly problematic. We've never seen anything like that in U.S. history. And then they did. They followed through on their campaign promise, at least two of these. I think that's problematic. I'm not surprised his campaign donation websites crashed.
Yeah. Piles of money coming in for Donald Trump. And I'm just curious, and I know it's not your area of expertise, Todd, but you're an American citizen like we are. And so, therefore, it's, you know, it bothers us to see something that's obviously a sham like this. Now, having said that, the border's been wide open for 3.5 years, and it depends on who you ask. Could be 8 million, could be 10, could be 12 that have come in illegally since Joe Biden went into the Oval Office. Nobody knows for sure, and that's the problem. And it won't change if he stays there. I can't emphasize how critical it is for there to be a change of leadership in the White House for us to get this thing under control. I mean, we have terrorist attacks happening. We have a Chechen national shot dead in the yard of a special forces soldier. We have a Mexican national trying to break into a Marine base. We've got all sorts of crazy things going on, and it all comes back to bad policies at the border, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You know, I just wrote a piece in the New York Post where I make the argument that this attack by two Jordanians in a big box truck on a major military base near Washington, D.C. On May 3rd, one of them was a border crossing terrorist. I'm just calling it. I say this is a terror attack. Somebody's got to just call it. That's what that was, even though the Biden administration absolutely refuses to address it one way or another, and so does the White House press corps. Nobody seems interested in the fact that You know what the
problem is, Todd? At some point, one of these attacks like you just described, or the one where the Mexican national tried to get into the Marine base, it's going to be something so big they can't ignore it. That's what's going to happen. One of these things is going to succeed, and American personnel at one of our bases here in the homeland are going to get hurt or killed because something too big to ignore happens, and then it'll be in the media. But that's where we are.
Why do we have to wait for blood to spill and blood to be running in the streets on this? This is obvious what's going on here. We've had 340 people cross that border that we know of who were on the FBI's terrorism watch list. Now we've scored the first attempted terror attack. We've got at least 7 cases of accidental releases of guys who are on the terrorist watch list, and then they had to go do these panicked manhunts to track them down and catch them before somebody gets killed. This is insane. Why do we have to have American blood spilled before we close that border down.
Well, we shouldn't. I mean, the answer is we should not. But you point out the media won't cover it. The Biden administration won't talk about it. And so the only way it's going to rise above that is for it to be something too big to ignore, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. And then maybe they'll still keep the border open. It's a one-off. You know, I mean, I can kind of already hear the arguments now when we're having funeral processions in small town America, or, you know, in some big city somewhere, and they're still not calling it a terror attack. But the point is that those people are part of one of the largest percentages we've ever seen in U.S. history of multinational diversity coming across that border from 170 different countries, all countries of the Middle East. These are said to be Jordanians, but you know, a lot of Jordanian people with Jordanian passports are Palestinians. They're not even telling us whether these are Palestinians who are mad at us for supporting Israel's retaliatory war against Hamas over there. This was an attack on a U.S. military base, Quantico, of all places, right? So, you know, that would be a very symbolic target for Palestinians to strike.
And the problem is, Todd, as we have discussed, you and I, many times, we don't know how many gotaways there are that are, you know, working in such endeavors right now, somewhere in America, putting together IEDs, putting together some firearms they've acquired, building bombs inside of box trucks. Nobody knows because nobody paid attention, and it's all by design. And it's not just here, sadly. You see it happening in France and Germany and the UK and Spain. Horrible pictures out of Spain that I saw this week. This is happening all over the Western world, which brings people like me to conclude it's obviously intentional because nobody could be this ridiculous. The border's not secure no matter what Alejandro Mayorkas says or Joe Biden or any other lieutenants say. The border is open. It's a direct threat to this country, an existential threat to this country. And if we don't change leadership on November the 5th, I don't know if there's ever any coming back. I'll give you the last word.
Well, what you're saying is not hyperbolic or rhetoric. I mean, it's objectively true. The border is open. Alejandro Mayorkas himself, has recently said more than 85% of everybody who comes to that border we release into the country. It's probably close to 100%. They're doing very few deportations. Certainly not anywhere near enough to actually deter this. So that's the definition of an open border, when you let everyone in into the country, and that's an extremely unusual. We've just never seen that before.
No, it's no border, no sovereignty. If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. I mean, it's that simple. Yeah, it's just not. It just makes no sense. Todd, real quickly, what's your website so people can find you today?
Yeah, toddbensman.com. I work for the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org. You can find a lot of my work there. I just have a brand new piece out about the new Panamanian president, Molina.
I look forward to that. Todd, I got to leave it right there. Todd.